What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some crazy battles in the Open Great League with Guzzlord, Broxish and a level 50 Slowpoke. Now the great thing about Slowpoke is that it not only completely destroys Poliwrath, but it often core breaks Poliwrath teams, so even if the Poliwrath is in the lead, which it often was, I was still able to fight back because Slowpoke could sweep in the endgame. The main thing holding this Pokemon back is unfortunately Water Pulse, which in terms of DPE is actually worse than Brine and deals exactly the same amount of damage as Psyshock despite being 15 more energy. If it learned Surf or even Scald like the other slow boys did this season, then it would be a lot more consistent, but unfortunately that is not the case. But still, I had a ton of fun with this team, so with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. What other random unevolved XL Pokemon would you like to see me build for the Open Great League? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so going into the first battle, and we see a Poliwrath in the lead. So the Pokemon we are targeting, unfortunately, not with the alignment we want, but we're going to say swap into our Broxish, and we're able to bait out a Trevenant. Now, I farmed to 4 Confusions. Broxish can learn Crunch, so the opponent does respect the damage there, and now I can just safely let the Broxish go down. That's the best case scenario. We force them to use all their energy straight away, and we grab a shield advantage. Now, we're going to wait out the switch slot, come in with the Guzzlord, and because of the defense debuff, we can just fully farm them down. This is only going to be a resisted Shadow Ball, and Shadow Ball not going to do too much damage there, so we do let it go through. Now Switch Shock barely wasn't up, so I do actually go for an extra Dragon Tail, go for the Dragon Claw, and that does some nice damage to the Poliwrath. The opponent is going to stay in. They are so confused about what to do because they've got a Talonflame in the back and they are being core broken by a level 50 Slowpoke. Now we go for the Water Pulse. Unfortunately that barely doesn't take them out, but it does not matter. We still got both our shields remaining. We use the first one up against the Fly, and now the Poliwrath is so low I can safely let this move go through. Everything they throw will be resisted. Scald doesn't do much damage. We get the Confusion farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, this time a Shadow Poliwrath in the lead. So same scenario, gonna save swap into my Broxish, and this time the opponent responds with a Hex Alolan Marowak. Now the opponent throws on alignment there, so we get an extra Confusion in for free. The awkward thing about this matchup here is that I'm gonna go for a Psychic Fangs to debuff their defense, but try to throw on good timing. We're already at over back-to-back charge moves, and if I threw earlier, I'd be dealing more damage with the Confusions, but I'm still able to grab both shields from the opponent, and the opponent doesn't commit to the farm down either, so I can safely let the Bone Club go through. It will be taking me out. Now we can Dragon Tail, farm them down. We've already seen it is Bone Club and Shadow Bones. I do not have to respect the damage here. Gonna swap immediately into my Slowpoke, and I'm pretty certain that it will be a Skeledirge in the back because they had the Alolan Marowak, and now this is another matchup where up a shield, we can just safely shield this up. Gonna go for 2 extra Confusions here, as this should put them into Water Pulse range, and Water Pulse coming through. Will it be enough to KO? Yes, it does KO, and now we can safely Confusion, farm down the opponent, or throw a Psyshock, doesn't really matter. They make it to a charge move, winning CMP, but Scald is resisted. We tank that fairly easily. They get the debuff once again, but it does not matter. Psyshock takes out the Shadow Poliwrath, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we actually see a good lead for us as we see a Talonflame. To be honest, my entire team does pretty well up against Talonflame, but I will respect the damage as this could be a Brave Bird. It probably is just going to be a Fly, and it is, but it does not matter. We play it safe. We can now farm to the back-to-back Dragon Claws. We also know that we can live a Fly, so if they shield, which they do, I will now just let this move go through. Oh, that rhymed. That was quite nice. But here we can go for the Dragon Tail, farm down, come out with a lot of energy, but I'm going to blind swap into my Broxish, and that is a big mistake as the opponent has a Lantern in the back, so not ideal for me. We go for a Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs will get them fairly low, and we debuff their defense as well, so the opponent has to throw their energy. They go for the Surf. We're going to come back in with the Guzzlord, although I do expect the opponent to try and make a catch, so we come in, and the opponent does make the catch there as well. The counter that goes through will be enough damage to take me out, and even though we had 2 charge moves loaded, all we could do is throw a resisted Brutal Swing, but it does not matter because this is where Slowpoke is so good. We can tank the Icy Wind on the chin, no problem, and actually that gives us more farm for the Slowpoke, and now I'm going to farm to the back-to-back Psyshocks. I think I do win CMP, so I'm actually not going to throw straight away, just in case Psyshock doesn't quite KO from that range. We can now get 1 extra Confusion in, and even if they were at the back-to-back charge moves, which it looks like they weren't, we could now go for Psyshock number 2, taking out the Lantern, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we see Charge Bug in the lead. Now, this is a bit of an awkward lead matchup just because, obviously, they can hit for super effective damage with the X-Scissor, and as well, my backline really does not want to see a Charge Bug. So, we're going to shield the first one. We can live one X-Scissor, but I do always shield the first one just because I don't know what they've got in the back. They might land the X-Scissor and then suddenly swap into something that also does pretty well up against my backline. But here, we're going to go for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw will not quite be enough damage to take out the Charger Bug, and we are able to get the Dragon Tail farm down. We're going to swap immediately, and the opponent comes in with Skarmory. They then come in with a Shadow Victory Bell. We can go for a Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs will be grabbing a shield. That would do huge damage. Well, it would easily take them out from that range. Unfortunately, we don't get the confusion damage to register there, as they're able to take me out with just one more Razor Leaf, and they get the Razor Leaf farm down up against the Guzzlord, but they throw straight away. So now we can land the confusion. We only take 1 damage from the charge move going through the shield there, and now I'm hoping the opponent throws a Brave Bird, thinking it will KO, because it doesn't actually take them out there. And now we can go for a Water Pulse. We overfarm as much as possible. They are 3 stages debuffed, and Water Pulse still isn't enough damage to take out the Skarmory. That's how bad of a move it is. And unfortunately, a Sky Attack will be taking out the Slowpoke, and we do lose that game. But GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we see Toxapex in the lead. So I'm going to say swap. We got 2 better answers. So we swap into our Bruxish. The opponent not throwing, well, obviously they're not going to throw straight away, as they have to go for a Sludge Wave to do any meaningful damage. But instead, they're going to bank their energy, tank the charge move because a Toxapex is very bulky. And now they come in with a Shadow Credilli. Now they do overfarm perfectly, throwing just before we make it to the next charge move. I'm happy to let the Rock Slide go through. We should only have to tank 1 charge move from this Credilli before we get the full Dragon Tail farm down, so I'm happy to let the first move go through. Sludge Wave should be doing a little bit more damage than that. So let's see, the opponent has a Lurantis in the back, so we go for a Dragon Claw, and the opponent throws on the CMP tie, so this is just going to be a Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade doesn't quite take us out, so I'm going to go for the Dragon Claw here, and then instantly swap into my Slowpoke. We do have a shield advantage, but this is looking very tricky for us, and the opponent's going to throw on alignment. That is perfect for me, best case scenario, as I'm just going to try and commit to the full Confusion farm down. The opponent going to throw a second charge move, and if they, well, I don't think they will make it to another charge move, so they swap into their Toxapex. They're going to go for a Sludge Wave, but Slowpoke is so bulky. Can we get the farm down? Yes, we are able to do so. We've got back-to-back Side Shocks loaded, but can we live this Fury Cutter? Yes, we are able to live that, get off the second Side Shock, and Slowpoke coming in clutch, taking out the Lurantis, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we see Whiscash in the lead, so a pretty neutral lead matchup, one that we don't need to swap out straight away, but we should eventually try and swap out of this matchup, just because we do need to bait out any hard answers to our backline. But I overfarm here. Big mistake. They went for a Scald first, trying to debuff my attack, but doesn't really matter, and now the opponent swaps out themselves. They swap into Clodsire. I come in with the Slowpoke because it is a lot bulkier than the Bruxish. And the opponent's going to go for an Earthquake. Earthquake does a big damage there, but I should be able to make it to a Side Shock just before they make it to charge move number 2. Side Shock coming through, and it barely doesn't take out the Clodsire, which is unfortunate. So now I'm going to use a shield as the opponent goes for a Stone Edge there. We can get the Confusion farm down, but let's see what the opponent has in the back. They come in with a Bastiodon, so this is not ideal for me. We're going to go for Water Pulse, but if the opponent lets this go through, you will see it does very little damage. We're now going to swap back into the Guzzlord. I don't want them to farm me down. And we actually grab a shield from the Brutal Swing as well, which is huge for me because that really wouldn't do too much damage. As you can see here, Brutal Swing does not do much damage. And now we're going to wait out the Switch Clock fully because obviously we are Switch Locked. The opponent is not Switch Locked. I'm going to have to shield this up. Bruxish is very glassy. Can't really tank a hit too well. We're now going to go for 2 Confusions, throwing at good timing as soon as we get to an Aqua Tail. This should be grabbing the final shield, and then we need to make a catch. That's the only win condition. And we do make the catch perfectly as the opponent gonna fully undercharge the Stone Edge there. Good play, but we do get off the Confusion damage, and that allows me to put them into range where an Aqua Tail should be enough damage to take out the Whiscash, and now we should be able to very easily outpace the Bastiodon to the Aqua Tail number 2, and this will be enough damage from this range to finally take out the Bastiodon, and I'm able to take this game. So GG's to the opponent there. Typically this team does struggle against Bastiodon, but I got a bit fortunate with how I played that game. But into the next game, another Charge Bug in the lead. So once again, probably going to shield the first charge move. The opponent typically always go for that first move straight away, so we do get an extra Dragon Tail in for free. I'm going for Brutal Swing here. Honestly, you could argue that I should just go for Dragon Claw since Brutal Swing would not take them out anyways, but I think Brutal Swing, if I do land it, or should put them into range where we can farm them down, but the opponent's going to swap into Umbreon, and this is absolutely awful for me. We're going to go for the Dragon Claw here, but you're going to see Dragon Claw does not do much damage. This is a positive matchup when we are at even health, but unfortunately, when we are so low, a foul play will easily take us out. I can't really afford to shield here either, just because they will outpace me now. This is really, really bad for us. We have only got double resisted fast move damage, and the best move we can throw is Water Pulse, which is a really, really bad move. So they go for foul play. Unfortunately, we're not going to live a second foul play, so I'm forced to shield here, which I don't really want to do because obviously Broxish is going to be even glassier than the Slowpoke, actually a lot glassier. But we're going to go for the Water Pulse, and Water Pulse does a miserable amount of damage. It doesn't even put them into range where I think I can Confusion farm them down with my Broxish, and they do still have a charge bug in the back, so even if we were able to get the farm down before they make it to another foul play, they could very easily come in with the Charger Bug and just farm me down. So unfortunately, not a lot I could have done up against that lineup there, but GG's to that opponent. Into next game, we're going to see Skeledirge in the lead, so we're going to stay in this matchup. This is a fairly decent lead matchup, but they do have Disarming Voice, which is going to be double super effective, so that will easily one-shot us if we let it go through. We go straight for the Brutal Swing there. We throw at slightly good timing, not the best timing for us, but we're now going to swap and try to catch the charge move, and we do successfully catch onto Slowpoke because it is a lot bulkier than the Broxish, and now the opponent's going to bank, well, a little bit of energy, not enough for a charge move, and then swap into a Whiscash. So we go for Side Shock, dealing some decent damage there, and a Mud Bomb will not be enough damage to take out the Slowpoke. As well, they throw at bad timing, giving us a full Confusion in for free, allowing us to make it to a Side Shock as well. And Side Shock should be taking out the Whiscash from this range, and it does exactly that. They're now coming with Altaria. I tried to swap out there. Doesn't really matter as they get like one extra Dragon Breath in for free. So we can go for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw will be grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and the opponent is going to throw just before we make it to the next charge move. So I'm going to let this move go through. They actually full send a Moonblast there, which is quite unnecessary. Sky Attack certainly would have taken us out, but it does not matter. We can now go for a Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs actually doesn't quite take out the Altaria, but we were able to get the Confusion farm down, and now we can very easily Confusion farm down the Skeledirge and take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we see Medicham in the lead, so not ideal for us. Gonna swap into my Broxish, and the opponent's gonna stay in initially, and then swap into Carbink. Now, this is a bit of an awkward matchup here. If I was running Water Gun, this would be really positive, but unfortunately, these Confusions, they are chunking, but these Rock Throws are doing huge damage to the Broxish. I think if I had a much better IV Broxish, we probably do take this quite comfortably, but I'm going to shield here just because they threw at bad timing. This will allow me to make it to another Aqua Tail, and does Aqua Tail KO from this range? It's going to be close, but it barely doesn't take them out there, and they do get the Rock Throw farm down. But they don't have much energy, so we come in with the Guzzlord, we get the farm down, and we swap into our Slowpoke. The opponent banks a ton of energy on the Medicham, and they've got a Talonflame in the back, but unfortunately we don't have a shield advantage this time around, so they do correctly shield up the Water Pulse. I have to let this move go through as they go for a fly. That does big damage, and they will still outpace me to the next charge move as well. So I have to just let this go through here. Gonna come in with my Guzzlord, and I make a big mistake here. I thought I could overfarm more than I could, and unfortunately I have to let this move go through because a Dynamic Punch would probably do more damage than that. But unfortunately, we do not have much health remaining. So I'm gonna go for the back-to-back Dragon Claws, hoping this is enough damage to take them out. But you can see a second Dragon Claw will not KO from this range. We do get quite fortunate that we get the like weird false CMP type thing where we throw two charge moves back to back without them getting a fast move in, but it doesn't matter as we're still taken out by one counter, and we do unfortunately lose that game. But GG's to that opponent there, and into the next game. This is the nightmare lead to see because I'm pretty confident it's going to be Victory Bell and the Wigglytuff in the back, so I'm going to just tank that, swap into my Broxish, baiting out the Victory Bell here, and we do bait it out. We also barely make it to a Psychic Fang, so we should be grabbing a shield here as the opponent thinks that alignment is super important in this matchup. We now come back in with the Guzzlord. We've got back-to-back charge moves to throw. I'm expecting it to be the Wigglytuff to come in, but let's see, as the opponent's going to come back in with the Bastiodon. So we're going to go for a Brutal Swing here. Brutal Swing, not going to do much damage. We will throw another Brutal Swing here just before they farm me down. And now we're going to swap into our Slowpoke as soon as possible. The opponent does have a Wigglytuff in the back, but unfortunately, they're just dealing a little bit too much damage. We've got both our shields remaining, but it won't help us here. So we're going to go for the Side Shock. Side Shock grabs the shield from the opponent. If the opponent goes for an Icy Wind, I think I'm just going to concede the match here because they're going to debuff me too much, and we've already seen Water Pulse doesn't do much damage up against Bastiodon, even when we're not debuffed, so we could have never won that game. But GG's to that opponent. I faced that team quite a few times. I literally have no idea how I'm supposed to play it. I think it's just one of those teams that, like, either you've got a good team up against it or you've got a bad team up against it, and there's no, like, playing good that can help you flip matchups or whatever. So anyways, into the next game here, we're going to see a Skarmory coming into the Bruxish, and this isn't that bad for us because we are resisting these Steel Wings, but unfortunately Bruxish is going to get nuked by basically any charge move. So Sky Attack, we are going to use my shield just because the fact that they're coming in with their Skarmory, if we overfarm here, go for an Aqua Tail, I think they might have a Poliwrath in the back. So Aqua Tail does grab a shield and they overfarm too much, allowing me to make it to another Aqua Tail. And they double shield the Skarmory, so I'm very confident that it is going to be something like a Poliwrath or maybe a Skelly-Dirge in the back. So we're now going to come in with the Guzzlord. I was wrong. It's actually a Clodsire, but either way, this should be a positive matchup. But in the no-shield scenario, you can see Earthquake does huge damage. We've already seen that a Psyshock does not KO from this range, so it will be very close. Psyshock coming through, doesn't quite take them out once again, and they do barely make it to another charge move. Stone Edge actually doesn't quite take us out there. I'm not sure if they undercharged that, trying to get the farm down with the Skarmory, but they might have undercharged it just slightly too much there, as we barely make it to a Psyshock to take out the Skarmory, and I'm able to take that game. So going into the next battle, another Shadow Poliwrath in the lead. So we say swap into our Bruxish, and the opponent makes a mistake as they come in with a Shadow Gligar. I'm going straight for the Aqua Tail, and the opponent lets that go through. I think they were calling a Psychic Fangs bait there. Honestly, I was very tempted to go for the bait, just because I feel like in the two-shield scenario, we could probably just Confusion farm them down, but we didn't bait. We went for the Aqua Tail, and it paid off, and now the opponent comes in with a Dragonair. We get off the Psychic Fangs, dealing huge damage with the Confusions. We come in with our Guzzlord, and I can just safely let this move go through. We will take them out with the Dragon Tail damage. We can swap into our Slowpoke, and there is literally nothing the opponent can do, so they just concede the match there. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we see a Purified Credilli in the lead. So we're going to stay in with the Guzzlord. Typically with Credilli, you see Skelly-Dirge and Poliwrath, so I'm feeling pretty good about this. So I'm going to let the first move go through as they go for a Rock Slide. I'm now going to go for a Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw not going to do too much damage. Credilli is very bulky, so they let the first one go through. And we're going to shield the next move coming from the Credilli, just because I do want to use some shields. I don't know for certain that they've got a Poliwrath and a Skelly-Dirge in the back. I am assuming so, but like I said, I don't know for sure. I'm actually going to let this move go through. Don't want to go down all shields. We swap into the Bruxish, and it's actually a Lantern in the back. So incorrect team read from my point, and now this is not looking too good for us, but it is good to see the Lantern here up against the Bruxish instead, as now we can go for a Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs will get them very low, so they're going to have to use their shield here. They do get the Spark Farm down, and I'm hoping that the opponent's going to swap out straight away. So we come in with the Slowpoke, and they've got Skelly-Dirge in the bag, so this is looking pretty good for us. And then they throw on alignment, which is even better. The opponent then full sends a Shadow Ball, so I make a big mistake here. I shouldn't have thrown this because I'm not at the back-to-back charge moves. They would have only made it to Disarming Voice, so instead we swap. We tried to catch the move. They end up not throwing, but unfortunately you're going to see Brutal Swing just barely doesn't take out the Lantern. They get the Spark Farm down, and now they can throw a Thunderbolt into my Slowpoke, and that will easily take us out there, and we do unfortunately lose that game. But there were multiple ways I could have won that, but unfortunately I was not able to do so. So GG's to that opponent. And into the next game, another Poliwrath in the lead. So I did actually see most of the Poliwrath in the lead, but we're still able to win against most of those teams. So this team does work out fairly well here, and you can see the opponent gets really greedy. We can now grab a shield advantage up against a Charger Bug, but they can go for super effective X Scissors into my Guzzlord. So I'm going to no shield the first one, since we can tank this. Unfortunately, we will barely miss out on tanking the next one, and I thought the Dragon Tail would take them out at this point. So no, actually we're going to go for the full farm down there. and the opponent comes back in with the Poliwrath, we come in with the Slowpoke, and I can easily tank this, so I will let it go through. They're probably going to debuff my attack with the Icy Wind, and they do exactly that, and now they can debuff me for a second time, but that's fine with me. I'm fully expecting it to be a fire type in the back, and it is. It's a Skeledirge, so I'm going straight for the Water Pulse. We are 2 stages debuffed. That is not going to do too much damage there, but we've got them low enough where we can just come in with the Guzzlord and take them out quite easily. So Disarming Voice takes me out. We're going to go for 3 Dragon Tails, throw the Dragon Claw just before they make it to Disarming Voice number 2. This will be taking out the Skeledirge, and we're able to Dragon Tail, farm down the Poliwrath, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we see Galarian Stunfisk in the lead. So we're going to swap out straight away, and hopefully they don't have a hard response, and they actually come in with Chestnut now. I make a slight mistake here. I know Psychic Fangs will not take them out, so honestly, you could argue that instead of throwing straight away, I should overfarm, because now, unfortunately, this Confusion will be taking out the Chestnut. So we're down a shield, but I guess we do have a little bit of health here, but I probably would have preferred to come out with more energy, so we can go for back-to-back Psychic Fangs up against the Jellicent coming in. But the opponent throws here, and just before we make it to the next charge move, I think one more Hex might have taken us out there, so that might be a mistake, but the opponent then swaps into Galarian Stunfisk. I'm going to go for the Brutal Swing. This isn't going to do too much damage, but I did want them to no shield, and now we swap into our Slowpoke. We're going to take the charge move on the chin. We're basically just going to sacrifice the Slowpoke here, as it can't do an awful lot up against the Jellicent. Also, Water Pulse takes ages to get to, so I'm actually just going to go for a Side Shock here. We're going to throw the Side Shock just because if the opponent does choose to shield this, they have to throw their energy pretty quickly, otherwise I will make it to another charge move, and at this point they're in range where we can probably just Dragon Tail and Dragon Claw farm them down. So the opponent swaps back into their Jellicent, maybe trying to catch a move there, but this is very easy for me to just no shield, fully farm them down, and now we'll be able to go straight for the back-to-back Dragon Claws at this point. So we're going to shield this up, go for one more Dragon Tail, and honestly, if they shield this up, I think I've also got a Brutal Swing loaded, so we got the shield there. Now we're going to go for a Brutal Swing, just because this is a slightly safer play, and Brutal Swing will be taking out the Stunfisk, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, awful lead for us as we see a Wigglytuff in the lead. Now, I just threw a really bad timing here. I don't think there was any way, even if I threw at perfect timing, that I could get off back-to-back Psychic Fangs, which is unfortunate, but we do at least grab a shield advantage, debuffing their defense, and the opponent's going to stay in with the Wigglytuff. Now, I fully anticipate they're just going to go for an Icy Wind, which is resisted damage, so unfortunately they are defense debuffed, but we're attack debuffed, and that allows them to make it to a second charge move here. I might as well use my shield. They go for another Icy Wind, and I'm just going to swap out straight away. They've got the Fairy in the lead, so we should be looking pretty good with the Guzzlord, but no, they've got a Carvink in the back, so yeah, what a weird team. But GG's to that opponent. I guess Dragons are pretty strong in the meta right now, so sure. But into the next game, we're going to see Shadow Abomasnow in the lead. Not great, so I'm going to say swap into my Broxish, and we do at least resist the Powder Snow damage. We get off the Psychic Fangs and grab an early shield advantage. I'm going to shield, respect the Energy Ball, and they do go for an Energy Ball. Now the opponent swaps into Azumarill. Not very good timing there from me. It's always a bit awkward to time your charge moves correctly when the opponent makes a swap like midway through their fast moves, but we go for another Psychic Fangs there. Once again, not good timing, but I just wanted to make sure I got off the Psychic Fangs before they go for a Poliwrath and take me out, because now we can actually come in with the Slowpoke and fully Confusion, farm them down before they make it to another move. And now we can just safely shield this up. They're probably going to go for another Energy Ball, but that's fine with me. They're probably quite weak to the Slowpoke in the back, and yes, they are. They've got a Talonflame in the back, so we're going to go for a bait with the Side Shock, grabbing the final shield. We will make it to a Water Pulse. And Water Pulse is going to be enough damage. Actually, not nearly enough damage to take them out there, but it doesn't matter. We come in with the Guzzlord, we get the snipe with the Dragon Tail damage, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, another Galarian Stunfisk in the lead. We're going to save swap into Broxish, and we are hard punished by Sableye. It's probably the worst thing, well, other than an Umbreon, probably the worst thing we could see swapping into a Broxish. I'm going to go for the back-to-back Aqua Tails. We do just barely get there in time, which is huge because I can grab a shield advantage. And now here, I'm just going to guess that they're going to bait and then full send the return. So I'm going to no shield the first charge move. Quite risky here. And the opponent is going to full send the return, which is not ideal for me at all. And now at this point, I don't think I'm going to shield this either. One other time, I did live the foul play, but this time I don't live the foul play. And yeah, it's game over basically. There's not a lot we can do here. We've seen already Water Pulse, rubbish charge moves, so even if we do land one up against the Stunfisk, it's not going to help us. The opponent even swaps, they make this matchup easier for me as they come in with a Poliwrath, but Psyshock barely just doesn't take them out there. They can now debuff me with an Icy Wind, and it is game over. Water Pulse already was not going to do enough damage to take out the Stunfisk, but now it's going to do even less damage, so Rock Slide gets us low. I'm just going to let them fully Mud Shot, farm me down, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But GG's to that opponent there, and into possibly the final battle of this video. Another Skeledirge in the lead. They're going to save swap into Vigoroth. Not ideal for me since I don't have a great response. I do have 2 Pokemon in the back that do resist counter, but Body Slam is going to be the main damage source here. So going to come in with my Slowpoke once again because it is slightly bulkier. We're going to let the next move go through as well. As they go for a second Body Slam, we're going to go for that Psyshock straight away, and if the opponent wants to, they can shield this up, and they can possibly just farm me down from this range, so it will be close, but they do get the farm down, and that is huge for them as they come out with so much loaded energy. They are down both shields, so let's just see if fighting for switch advantage was the right play for the opponent here, or if Bruxish can core break their backline. So we are now going to shield just because they could have something like a Lantern in the back, but we're now going to swap into a Bruxish, and they did have a Poliwrath in the back, so that's looking amazing for me. We can go straight for an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail does big damage to the Skeledirge. We can Confusion farm them down. I'm going to shield this up, and they're going to go for a Disarming Voice there. Not really any reason to bait, but it doesn't really matter. We can now go for a Psychic Fangs. Psychic Fangs gonna do big damage to the Poliwrath. Unfortunately, we're barely not able to take them out, but it does not matter. We put them into range where one Dragon Tail will be taking out the Poliwrath, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know. And as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.